Hey guys, it is Wingy here and welcome to another of my Doctor Who series reviews. This time we are talking about the third and final full series to feature Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. Now, as you're aware, I was not too keen on Series 6 and I feel like the decline of Doctor Who kind of began then. Series 7 doesn't improve anything. Now, the frustrating thing that I have with Series 7 is I feel like there is a good series in here and I do feel like in certain elements it improves on Series 6, but I also feel that it also falls into the same pitfalls that Series 6 does. Again, I don't like the fact that we split this series up into two distinct parts. I don't think that that works. And I have to say, the first part in particular, I think is incredibly weak and arguably one of the weakest runs of Doctor Who post-2005. We start off with Asylum of the Daleks, which I think is arguably the worst Dalek story we've ever had. It is just a piss-poor Dalek story and shows that Moffat didn't really care about the Daleks and, to be honest, didn't know how to write them properly. We've also got this awful subplot with Amy and Rory divorcing that goes absolutely fucking nowhere, and it ends with the Daleks not remembering who the Doctor is, which is never brought up again, I don't think. Then the next two stories are just sort of there, I guess. You've got the goofy dinosaurs on a spaceship. I mean, with a title like Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, that pretty much tells you everything you need to know about it. I think Power of Three out of this first chunk is probably the strongest, but its latter half really lets it down. It is such a piss poor ending. This idea of a slow invasion I think is quite an interesting idea, but when it's a simple case of I'll just wave the Sonic about and that fixes everything, that's not interesting to me. Town Called Mercy, I did a review on Patreon recently and it's fucking garbage. It's so bad. It really hams up things in that story. Like, certain characters will die and you're supposed to care about them even though they've been on screen for 5 minutes, but the story is shot in a way where it's like, oh no, that character died. Anyway, fucking get over that. Then of course you've got The Angels Take Manhattan, which I think is awful, but I think when it hits emotionally towards the end, I think that is beautifully done, but everything to get to that position is just dull as dishwater and again needlessly complex. And I think overall the first half of Series 7 is just sort of delaying the inevitable that Amy and Rory are going to go. After watching it, I kind of feel like maybe they should have left earlier and we could have had a clean slate as opposed to wasting 5 episodes with utter shit. I mean, maybe if Clara came in earlier, maybe the same thing would have happened, who's to say? But I just feel like Amy and Rory overstayed their welcome. Don't get me wrong, they're still really good at what they do, and I also do like the fact that as a couple, they have matured. I don't like the divorce thing, but there's certain episodes, like particularly something like Power of Three or Angels Take Manhattan, where you really see that as people they have grown. But they've kind of outgrown the Doctor, and it kind of is a bit awkward in places because it's just like they deep down don't really want to travel with you anymore. Why are they still here? The Snowman I thought was a thing. It's a Christmas special. People always ask me, oh, but what do you think of the Christmas special? Unless it's Voyage of the Damned, it's shit. That goes for all of them. Every single one of them. They are terrible. Then we get into what I think is the stronger half of Series 7, which of course is the second half, Series 7B, where we're introduced to Clara, everybody's favourite companion. But what I think is an even more crucial part of this series is the costume change. Now, I really want to talk about this for a little bit because Matt Smith's second costume with the purple tweed, oh my fucking god, it's gorgeous. Genuinely one of the best Doctor Who costumes ever, and I'm not exaggerating. Like, it is up there with Tom Baker's for me. Did I actually rank it that? Because I did do a costume video. This is going to be awkward if I didn't rank it that high, but either way, the point is this version of the Doctor's outfit I think is pretty much perfection. I love the purple. I like the colour purple in general, to be honest. But I think it looks so good on Matt. I think his hair looks really good. And he looks a lot more mature. It feels like a natural evolution for his Doctor. Kind of in a similar way to Tom Baker's costume, funnily enough, where he starts off and it's a little bit thrown together, a little bit scruffy, and then he smartens it up. And that's when I say, I mean, I know a lot of people like the Season 12 outfit. I do myself, but I personally like the 4th Doctor in a frock coat, and I think it's a similar sort of story with Matt. I love the Series 5 outfit. Series 6 I think is more or less the same, but it's a more dull version of Series 5. But then you get to this outfit and it's like, right, okay, that's the Doctor, there we go. It just looks gorgeous. Like, at every angle, the way that he runs down a corridor with it, the way that the coat just flaps about and everything, like, it even works with the shoes and the bow tie. Matt just looks incredibly dapper. It's such a well done costume, and whoever thought, yeah, we're going to change it up a little bit, fucking well done, because that is one of the best outfits Doctor Who's ever seen, and I mean that wholeheartedly. But let's start talking about the important things of Series 7, which is not the costume, the stories. So, it starts off with the Bells of St. John, which I don't think is awful. It's a run-of-the-mill Doctor Who story. It's not anything special. It's not anything exciting. It's just there. I enjoy it for what it is. I like the introduction to Clara. I really like that shot of them on the plane. And I really think that, you know, villains in the Wi-Fi, it's an interesting enough idea. I don't think it really is fully utilised, but it's more of an episode to get introduced to Clara, which I think works pretty well. Then with the Rings of Akaten, you've got a story that starts off, I think, pretty interesting and just takes a nosedive very, very quickly. Like, yes, Matt's speech is very well acted and very well delivered, but it doesn't save the story. It's still a shit story overall. And I think the design of the creatures in this story, not the sun god, I can't think of the names now, but they've got like a weird sort of face and they sort of make a haw noise as they're walking along. They're fucking awesome, at least at first. When you realise that they don't actually do anything, they're fucking pointless. But there's a few moments where they're sort of in the background wandering around and you're like, ooh, they're a bit creepy. But then you get the scene where Matt Smith is holding up a door with the Sonic and it's like, really? Cold War, probably the strongest story in terms of like a traditional Doctor Who story. I love the redesign of the Ice Warrior. I think it looks fantastic. I love the fact that it is this claustrophobic, atmospheric story. Do I love the idea of the Ice Warrior out of its shell? Probably not. But at the same time, as a one-off, it works for what it is. Never ever want to see it again though. I like the Ice Warriors to be powerful. And you do get a sense of that in here, but it feels more like an Alien Light story as opposed to fully utilising the Ice Warriors, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's still enjoyable, and I enjoy the performances as well. It's kind of the most Troughton-esque Matt's era's got. Obviously, Ice Warriors, base under siege, bit claustrophobic. Matt is very Troughton anyway. Hyde is shit. Again, it's one of those stories that I think starts off well and the ending lets it down, and I think that's kind of a running gag, really. I don't know if it was a running gag, but it feels like a running gag throughout the Matt Smith era, that particularly season 6 and 7, that it just starts off well and just doesn't end well. I think the whole love thing at the end with the monsters doesn't really work, and I don't think, like, it was billed to be, oh, this is the scary one, and it really wasn't. Like, I didn't find it that chilling or atmospheric or anything like that. I found it really dull. Journey to the centre of the TARDIS I thought was a missed opportunity, and a bit stupid in places as well. Like, they were playing a prank on their brother that he was a robot or something. Like, what? Don't get me wrong, it was nice exploring this new console room because it's gorgeous. I love it. It's probably my favourite console room. You know, it's an interesting idea, wandering around and seeing what's about, but again, there's nothing really interesting in this story. There's nothing really that hooks me that's kind of like, yeah, awesome. Then you got the Crimson Horror. One of the worst episodes ever. All I have to say about that. Oh yeah, Nightmare in Silver. Yeah, that's shit as well. That's really bad. Probably the worst Cyberman story we've had, and fuck me, that's saying something. Episode wise, this is a really bad series for me. I like Cold War, and I like parts of other episodes, but it's just, it's very style over substance, I found this series. There's not a lot in it for me to be like, oh, wow. And another thing that I take issue with this series is Matt himself. I think I sort of said this in my Series 6 review, but Matt feels like he's playing a caricatured version of the 11th Doctor. This doesn't feel like the same character throughout that we saw in Series 5. I don't know, he feels more exaggerated, he feels more over the top, he feels more quirky for the sake of being quirky rather than that's just who he is. I'm not necessarily blaming Matt for that because I feel like Tennant sort of did the same during his run as well, and it's an easy trap to fall into, but for me sometimes Matt does get on my nerves, and I think Nightmare in Silver is a genuinely bad performance from Matt Smith, particularly when he is the cyber guy, cyber planner, is it the cyber planner? Controller? Dude? Bowtie man? Who gives a fuck? It's wank. I will say as well about Clara, now you guys obviously know how I feel about Clara if you've watched my channel now, because I've moaned about her and ranted about her for fucking ages. However, what I will say is, in Series 7, I don't actually mind her that much. because she is supposed to be this mystery. So the fact that she is like this blank slate character, I don't really mind, because I don't really know who she is. It's when the unraveling of the mystery stuff and series 8 onwards, that's when I take a proper issue with her as a character. I think Jenna Coleman as an actress is pretty weak, if I'm being honest. I'm being brutally honest. Like, I don't think she's the strongest actress to play a companion that we've ever had, particularly in the modern series. But I think she's harmless enough in Series 7. I know that Name of the Doctor is technically part of Series 7, but I wanted to talk about the Doctor trilogy as a separate video because I really have a lot to say about the entirety of those 3 stories and how they link up and everything like that. I think it's a very interesting way to end the 11th Doctor's tenure. However, in the comments below though, guys, let me know what you think. What do you think of Series 7? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I know a lot of people will probably like this because it was maybe one of the first series that they watched. I think a lot of people are kind of like me, where it's like, actually, it's proper fucking boring. For me, the only way that I can properly sum up this series is it's Moffat on autopilot. It doesn't feel like any actual thought and effort was put into this series in terms of creating the plots. And I think around this time a lot of people were saying that he's probably just focusing on Sherlock stuff and other stuff that he's doing, and it's evident that his full focus wasn't on Doctor Who, because this was really a series of missteps, if I'm being totally honest. But do you agree with that? If you enjoyed this video, then make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links will be in the description as always, so if you would follow me on any of those things, I would absolutely love you forever. But until next time, guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye.